sige, we'll start. Hi, Nicole. Well, we've had conversations in the past, no? Yeah. Yeah. No, seriously. I mean, it's not supposed to be funny. Is it funny? It's not funny.
The point of it is, I feel like Pastor Pa would see me like in their kitchen or in their kitchen or in their living room, and I'm just like there fully sobbing, and like it's not a new
Yeah.
new sight, not a new occurrence. I just learned to like laugh
Yeah.
at it now.
Yeah. But, yeah, how was it like for you going through what you had to go through? No? Again, there's a lot of misconceptions or even ideas about it, but from somebody who went through a challenge, what was like, how did you discover it was a challenge for you mentally?
I think honestly, it's been an ongoing thing since I was younger. Like if I would think back,
Uh-oh.
like I would see young Nicole,
Mm.
and like I would want to hug her because it's been a very very long challenge, definitely. And I remember dating back to 2018, the
Mm.
very first time I had gotten my diagnosis.
Mm.
I was, it was a very surreal moment, like just sitting there being told by a psychiatrist that, okay, you have anxiety disorder,
Mm.
and now you also have major depressive disorder, or as we
Mm.
knew it back then, clinical depression.
Mm.
And I was like, what in the world does that mean? Or like,
Mm.
what would that entail? And I
Mm.
think that alone was a challenge itself, like coming to terms with that, coming to
Mm.
terms with just having like a solidified reality slapped onto what I was going through.
Mm.
And I think it was more on a challenge between me and God
Hmm.
to begin with. I grew up in a Christian household.
Mm.
I grew up with, seeing my dad preaching on stage, talking to multiple students, and then I would look in the mirror and I'm like, what is happening? And I think that was something that I really had to wrestle
Mm.
with, because the moment that I had gotten my diagnosis, it felt like it just felt like it became a part of my identity.
Mm.
Once my friends, like even before I disclosed it to them, they would know. It's very, when you're going through something, even as much as you try to hide it,
Mm.
it leaks.
Mm.
It shows through no matter how much you want to suppress it, and it's a very tricky thing dealing with that, the shame that comes with it, the shame, the embarrassment even, and it's just a constant exchange with God that when will this end.
Mm. Sorry, what would you mean when you say shame? I mean, again, from all of us who are listening into this conversation, what does that actually mean, or how does that feel for you?
Even in this day of age, it's a sad reality that I still have to struggle with at times, that if you are not what people consider the 100% functional person,
Mm.
who is always okay, always able to think at a level-headed
Mm.
manner, who is
Mm.
able to keep their emotions at bay. I think in a way we're expected to be empathetic. We're expected to have emotions to connect with others, but at the same time we are not supposed to show those emotions. We are not supposed to show that brokenness.
Mm.
And I think when you are not able to find the middle ground to that, what people and what society expects to be acceptable,
Huh.
it comes with shame. I think that's
Yeah.
the best way I could explain it.
Wow.
If I can
Yeah.
like just jump to
Sure.
add to that, like I don't know if you've experienced this, but I literally was told, nobody likes you when you're not happy. Like it's like shot at you, like told you stop
Mm.
showing it, stop being depressed, stop being that, because nobody likes you when you're like that. You don't want to be a burden. And I think that's a lot. Was that your experience? Like people saying, I think very Filipino, wag lang basagan ng trip. Like don't ruin the vibe,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that also, like when you're, for example, me who was every day I was in school, and then right after I would rush to go to church. I mean, it was my routine, and there was barely any time for me to just break. And so sometimes when you put yourself through that grind, like just constant routine, again, like I said, it's gonna come out.
Yeah.
And when it does, it's scary. It's a very scary experience, because it runs through your head right away. Like, what will my peers think what will my teachers think? What will the authority figures around me think?
Right.
And now I am at the point of my life where I am both working and studying, and that's another another added factor that I have to consider. What will my boss think if I'm not able to deliver at the given time, at the given schedule, because I'm not okay? And I think that there, like, when you mentioned that you were told that, okay, just be happy, just smile, like, don't ruin it for everyone around you. I am reminded of a phrase that I was actually telling Dad on the way here. It's a quote that have resonated with me even back then. You are so polite with your sadness. You don't want to ruin it for everyone else.
Wow.
And I think that's such a pressuring thing alone, like having to deal with that expectation that you have to be happy so that others around you won't be affected by what you are going through.
Wow. How about for you, Frankie? What was that like? Was that something you were aware of, that you had these challenges?
I'm trying to control the part of me that I guess there's always a temptation to look back on my past. It's to be angry. Like, if you want to hug your past self, I want to, like, stand in front of her and be like, don't touch this kid, because you have no idea what she's going through, and why are you... because growing up, I was really made to feel demonized for having violent emotions and for having these, I guess, big feelings that I couldn't quite understand. And now I know what I have is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I've been diagnosed with CPTSD. And 2 years ago was my first time. I'm gonna say this on recording for the first time. I was diagnosed last year with borderline personality disorder, which, when you say that, it's like, personality disorder. But basically all it means is I have these big feelings because of stuff that's happened to me in my past. And people tend to just judge you by how you act. They don't try to think about why you act the way you act. Like, it's really funny. Like, as a society, we expect to be understood. We don't try to understand. And that's definitely something that I experienced a lot of. And for me, it was being told a lot. You have an attitude problem. Like, I remember that being a thing, a narrative that was just kind of running through, like a thread going through half of my life. Because I'm 30. And for like 15, 16 years of my life, literally, you have an attitude problem. You have an attitude problem. You have an attitude problem. And you're constantly grappling with trying to fix it, trying to make yourself better, trying to be better, trying to change.
Yeah.
So for me, when I got my diagnosis, it was scary at first because there's a tendency to make it your identity, right? Because that's just how we've kind of romanticized mental illness now. But once you get past that stage, it's comforting because it actually allows me to say, like, that's not me. It's like any more than the way I explain to people is like the same way that a diabetic is not defined by their diabetes. It's just a condition that you have.
That's good.
I have CPTSD and BPD. And so that's going to mean that there are going to be days where my brain doesn't have insulin. To use that analogy, right? Or the way I put it is like, my brain has the flu. My brain's having allergies. I'm having an allergy attack. You don't fault an asthmatic for using an inhaler. You won't fault me for taking my meds or taking a step back or needing to breathe. And, you know, I'm lucky that my mom helped me figure out that analogy of explaining it to people. Because before that, it was really, really hard. I've literally had people tell me, like, how can we expect you to lead if you're not stable? I'm like, my mom was the one who told me, tell them that. Tell them if somebody had a leader with asthma and they had an asthma attack, would you stop them from being a leader? No.
That's true.
Why am I any different?
Right.
Just because I have a mental illness.
Yeah.
I could also just add to that. I I was actually also diagnosed with BPD. It took many diagnoses. I mean, it's not something that's very known yet, especially in the Philippines. Like, you go on Facebook, barely any support groups. And it was that alone was very difficult to try to comprehend. I mean, okay, depression, anxiety, that's like
everybody knows that.
It's very somewhat, I would say, it's more palpable than when you say borderline personality disorder. And from the word itself, personality, my first thought was, personality, is there something fundamentally wrong with how I am as a person, wired, with my wiring, with who I am, who God made me to be? And I was just like, I don't understand. And so I went through a crisis of an identity crisis, trying to understand like, so now what, who am I, like given this diagnosis. And again, it comes with very, very big emotions, as you would know.
Yeah.
And sometimes like even I would just sit and be like, why are you like this? Like, where is this coming
I
from?
think the part that people, because I know a lot of people, unfortunately I've met a lot of people who are afraid to give mentally ill people allowances because they're afraid of like, if we do that, then we encourage them to just keep acting out and never change. And they never realize that as a person with a mental illness, the reason why I even started getting therapy was not because of myself, was because I wanted to stop hurting people. Like, we don't like it when we lash out. We don't like it when we break down. I would like to not have a day where I have a crying fit all of a sudden because I suddenly remembered something or got triggered by a memory. Like, I'm back in the flashback again. I would like that. But it's just, it is what it is. It's like, again, it's like having an asthma attack. If I could stop it, I would, but I can't. And you try to go through therapy to learn to manage it so you don't hurt the people around you because you love them.
Yeah.
That just because you have a disease doesn't mean you stop loving the people around you and want
That's
it,
correct.
you know. And I think the other thing as well that having, going through therapy has given me is agency. Like, I have at least a couple of tools to take control back from when the attack hits. It's like, it's my inhaler. I can stop it somehow, or I can write it out.
Yeah.
It gives me power back from, essentially, when what caused me to have these conditions is the nature of the world being what it is, a sinful, fallen world. Other people taking agency away from me.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've seen this, and people are actually debating if BPD should still be a diagnosis, or if it's really just CPTSD. It's just post-traumatic stress disorder. Because what causes BPD is trauma. Your personality isn't the problem. It's because something happened to you, and ultimately, I think that's what people need to understand. We're all broken. We recognize this. We're all, especially Christians, right? We're all broken people. We recognize that. That's why we need Jesus. So why is it so hard for people to accept that some people just show the cracks a little bit more dramatically, I guess? It doesn't make us any more different from you just because you can hide your breaks better than we can.
Yeah.
Right?
Doc Ging, I know you've had a lot of, we're listening to their conversation. What are some of the misconceptions? No? I'm sure those of us watching here today would have several. Baka you can share a few.
Misconception about going
Mental
to
health,
therapy,
mental
about
illness,
mental health.
yeah.
Okay. So sometimes people think that mental health is something weird, no? They don't realize that that's just part of, our growth, and sometimes it's just like other problem or illness, no? So people cannot just accept that, like what our sister said. Now, if a person have diabetes, doesn't mean that you identify your personhood as having diabetes. It's just that it just happened that you have that. So especially with depression, it's just like a common cold. Everybody is affected with, not everybody, but many. In fact, here in the Philippines, it's like we have a greater number of people who suffer from depression. So it's just like a common cold that people will be affected. But sometimes people think that this is something weird, what's going on in their thinking, like this layman's perspective of insane. But that's not really the way it is. It is really something that is really the person is being plagued with this kind of problem. So another misconception of going into therapy so that the person will be helped is that people who come to therapy are only for the insane, for the crazy. No. Therapy is just like, helping, like doctors who help people who have sickness or illness. As well as therapy is not just about you have a problem, but it's also about growth, because all of us are broken, as our sister said, and each one of us maybe have its own issue. It's just that other don't recognize that, no? So there are other personality problems, like self-esteem problem, or maybe post-traumatic disorder. So there are really issues. It's just that people are not aware, or people are afraid to accept that because they don't want to be labeled as such. and they put down other people having that problem. So, but going into therapy is not just about having that problem, but also for our growth. So that's the misconception, because therapy or mental illness is a normal thing that's going on as living in this imperfect world, influenced by the fall because of sin. We are not perfect. We cannot think perfectly. We cannot feel perfectly. We cannot even behave perfectly. So that's why we are all broken people. So going to counseling is really a big help, because it's not just about having such crazy problem, but it's also for growth. No, even if, in a personal sense, before practicing this, I also submit myself for therapy for me to know more about myself, because it's just self-awareness. And if you're aware of your issues, of your problem, then you can manage. You can really work on that. But if you're not aware, so you just behave the way you behave. You just feel the way you feel. In fact, I remember I always tell my students on this: an unexamined life is not worth living, by Aristotle. So we need to examine our life, because we are not aware we are all broken people.
Sige, let me ask Ian, no? As someone who, I don't know what the discovery was for you, what the journey was for you. Maybe you can share a little bit, no, how it was. Parang, I guess for us, even for me, it's still something that I need to learn, and there's a lot more things that we need to uncover, or at least learn from this. But what was the journey like for you?
Again, we go back to 2018. Kidding aside. Mental health, I guess Nicole could really attest to this. I think I was in a state of denial. Like, that can't be true.
Yeah.
That was my first reaction. That was my first, right, Nicole? Yeah, that can't be true. That can happen. And then the misconception, I think, is when, like, that's my experience, when I tend to over spiritualize things. So my first my initial reaction was, oh, maybe there's something wrong spiritually. Yeah. That was tough. Because that was and that's the only sound reaction I can think of during that time. That, I can still remember that was 2018, around September. Right around this month.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a Monday morning, right? I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Sabbath for us, day off for pastors, and had a talk. Nicole told us the whole, like, the full blown of what she's going through, and man, my reaction was to really over spiritualize things. I'm not saying it was entirely wrong, but I'm sure, just in hindsight, there's a lot of things I could have done better to address, just like what Frankie mentioned, her condition. So either we don't want to, I think I'm thinking of people listening now, like, either you over spiritualize, or we haven't,
You over pathologize it naman.
yeah,
You put it in the other box.
yes, or just like me, right in the center. That can be true, denial, until of course over time took me at least a year to accept the condition, the illness, and seek God for wisdom how to approach this condition at home.
Is it okay if I ask a question though?
Yeah, go.
Like,
Go lang.
What,
Yeah.
what-
Yes,
is it okay
Frankie.
if I ask a question? Which is
Yeah,
that,
go ahead.
what kind of was there anything you were afraid of when you heard, like, my daughter has a diagnosis? Was there like an image in your head or a conception of what that meant or what that would mean? Maybe motivated the denial or something like that. Because I think it's important to talk about how scary it is to hear
Yeah.
someone you love has a mental illness, right?
You know that feeling of like everything that of course it's just the sound of it is wrong already. That what we have built. I mean, we're raising our daughter, and then this condition, very unknown. No one is prepared for it. Like any sickness,
Yeah.
right? And then we don't know the cure. We don't know what to do next. And then all the pressure inside and outside put into one picture, put into one season. That's, I don't know how really to describe it, but I don't know if I did answer your question.
The sense I'm getting is that I love this little girl and I've done
Yeah.
my best by her and I can't save her.
Yeah,
From this. I think
and-
it's a very dad thing.
And
right? Like,
yeah, and I think that's the first. I mean, right? Doc denial for acceptance.
For grief, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're
Because something happened, and that was a turning point, at least for the whole family. And yeah, we grieve.
Yeah. You're grieving the image or the future, the possibility
What?
you thought you had.
Yeah. What we're trying to believe God for, what we're trying to build, what we're trying to raise her to be. But again, fast forward, God has a different purpose for Nicole, and this condition
Yeah.
is part of it.
I guess my question, like Nicole, was there? Just correct the question if ever it's a wrong question. But was there a point where you felt like you were disappointing your parents? Did that actually happen, or it's really more looking at yourself and say, okay, this is really just the condition that I have?
I think definitely. I mean, any children, I feel like, as bad as it sounds, it's an inherent fear. Like, what if I disappoint my parents who have given everything to bring me to where I am now? Of course, God, God has been like the hand in all of those. But you know, it's a given, and I
Mm.
feel like that's not something that can be denied.
Yeah.
I think definitely, and it came to a point that it translated to both their anger,
Yeah.
and I was also afraid of myself. Like,
Yeah.
okay, how will I screw up next? Because in my head, that's what it was.
I'm a grenade.
Okay, yeah. I've used that like multiple times. I remember I was in my room sobbing. I thought they were asleep. Well, they were asleep. I woke them out. I woke them up because of how, I was just having like a breakdown. And when my mom entered, the first thing I said was, "Mom, I'm so scared of myself right now." I was afraid of what I might do, how I might hurt others, and how I might also, sort of self-destruct.
Yeah.
And I think that alone was a mix, a jumble of emotions, from fear to anger. It was in the span of an hour. I was like running around all of those emotions, just like, God, I've begged you so many times. Like, could you not hear me? Like, if you're not gonna heal me for me, heal me for the people who love me. Heal me for the people who are also who are also going through this with me and because of me. I think that's the key word. In my head, it all translated to because of me,
Yeah.
and all of my breakdowns, all of my pain.
Yeah.
It was instantly translated to, okay, you screwed up again. So I think that's a very inevitable part of it, I would say.
Wow. Yeah. For you and Van, what was that like? I mean, I guess just seeing her break down, going through what she had to go through. Yeah.
That was really like a shaking moment for us.
Okay.
As
Yeah.
parents,
Yeah.
as Christians. But what helped us, of course, community, of course, God and all. But God put me back in that first night
Mm.
when I held Nicole in my hand,
Mm.
and God gave Nicole to me, and God assured me that He got Nicole.
Mm.
That, I mean, I don't know how it helps to those who are listening, but that helps us a lot. Just God putting us back
Yeah.
to that
yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
And I said, Nicole can have different. I mean,
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind. Nicole can have different counselors. Nicole will have many therapists.
Mm-mm.
Nicole will have many psychologists, or can go to different routes of healing. Kasi marami namang, I think there's
Yeah.
a lot that we
Yeah.
can explore. But she only has one father, and that's me. That's me.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one. Of course, God is our Father in heaven.
Mm.
So with the amount of love that our Father in heaven gives us, is the amount of love that we can extend to our children.
Yeah.
So it was really dark. It was really like, definitely, we there's a lot of nights we question God, why this is happening.
Yeah.
And guess what? We don't have any answers, even until now.
Yeah.
There may be storms that will move out the way, and trials will come to only test my faith. What I've learned about your favor, your mercy and your grace, as they go on forever, they're sufficient for today. When I'm worried about tomorrow, I won't be overwhelmed. And the burdens that I've carried, I will choose to lay them down. What I've learned about your favor, your mercy and your grace, as they go on forever, they're sufficient for today. And hallelujah, 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 they're sufficient for today. Hallelujah, 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 they're sufficient for today. In the joy and in the sorrow, I find you just the same. And behind my darkest mornings, there's a peace I can't explain. I'm so grateful for your favor, your mercy and your grace, 'cause they go on forever, they're sufficient for today. And hallelujah, 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 they're sufficient for today. And hallelujah, 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 they're sufficient for today. One day I'll finally see you, and my faith will be my sign, and all my present suffering will be gone and left behind. I'll be standing in your favor, your mercy and your grace, 'cause they go on forever. All glory to your name. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah,
basically get hit with the emotional shrapnel. Because
Yeah.
what happens when you have BPD is you explode, and that's why the people say it's likely like CPTSD. Because what happens when like I have an episode is that I go back
Yeah.
to this place
Yes.
that isn't where I am right now.
Yeah.
It's the memory. Like, you know, there's this quote, I forgot what author said, the past isn't dead, it isn't even past. And that is very true for trauma, because the part of your brain that flares up when you have a dramatic flashback is not the part of your brain that's memory. It's the part of your brain that's the amygdala. It's like where you are right
Yeah.
now. I am in that again. This
Yeah.
feels exactly like that. And so
Yes.
your brain just desperately wants to be safe, and it's like a cornered animal. It's like lashing out because it wants to save you. And when you do that, you hit people you love, and it's